Explain to me what fatty liver, because this is unfortunately you don't know or learn these terms until it's damn near terminal. Until you
Right.
have a reason, you got to go to the hospital, you got to go to the doctor, and then all of a sudden you start learning all of this terminology,
Right.
and you start caring about it, because normally you say, "Oh, I don't care about that." So, oh no, you don't know. Fatty liver, you saying, is something that anyone over 50 pretty much has some element or aspect of fatty liver. What is fatty liver? However, what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, the statistics are pretty damning, quite honestly. So over the age of 50, 50% of Americans have it, and between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 people in America have it, and that can go all the way down into teenagers. And
Wow.
it's essentially food driven. So years ago, this was alcohol driven. Now it's what they call NAFLD, which is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So it's the food that's driving all of this disease. And
Fatty foods and cholesterol and all of these things.
so that was the belief years ago. So I'll define sort of a fatty liver, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
So fatty liver is a liver that has anywhere between 3 to 5% fat constitution and up. So that in that range, 3 to 5%, you're non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Then you get into fibrosis and cirrhosis and worse things, liver failure essentially. But the way people are getting it nowadays is, it's a combination of things really. So, and we could probably talk about this a little bit more later, but it's the immense amounts of sugar people are taking in. 100 years ago, we were taking in 10 to 12 pounds of sugar annually per person.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're up at almost 100. So that's a drastic difference. Okay, we're not designed to evolve anywhere near that quickly. The other thing is the amount of antibiotics. And I remember I was giving a lecture to a bunch of physicians, and I said, the amount of antibiotics that are getting to people are increasing about threefold over the last 15 years. And it's a ton of hands that went up, and physicians were saying, no, we're pulling antibiotics back. That's not true. And interestingly enough, we're both right. Physicians are prescribing less antibiotics than they were before. The problem is the meat industry is prescribing antibiotics in a much higher rate than they ever were before.
Wow.
So the pigs, the chickens, the cows, and so forth, because they have them in such close confines, they have to constantly be giving them antibiotics so that they don't end up becoming diseased before they go to slaughter. And you're getting that in your food. So that's a big problem. So you got this breakdown of natural bacteria that are in your small intestine. And once that happens, stuff leaks through, causes chronic inflammation, which you may or may not pick up on. A lot of people end up getting there's a lot more allergies and sensitivities than there were just a few years ago. That's the main indication. And then they all have to get filtered. So this blood goes through the liver predominantly, 70%, and the liver's catching it. The liver is a very complex organ, probably the most complex secondary to the brain. There's over 500 different chemical reactions that take place in there. And it's phase 1 and phase 2 that detoxify the body and help keep it clean. Phase 1 takes, whatever raw molecule or pesticide or whatever is going through your body. It takes off the parts that are still useful, and then what it leaves behind is highly toxic. And it goes to what's called phase 2. But the problem is most livers, if they're constantly getting bombarded by what you're eating and they're the wrong things, there's a buildup of these things. The toxins, liver does something ingenious. So because it can't break it down, it takes it and it creates a fat cell, and it sticks the toxins in the fat cell and says, we'll store it for later. I don't have the ability to break it down now.
Wow.
And that buildup,
kind of like an antivirus program, right? Like a quarantine.
You got it. It's exactly it.
Wow.
Until the system finally breaks down.
Right. Why am I blue screen? Oh, Lord.
Right. 404 error.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot of times that's when the doctors come in and they say, well, you've got some really bad problems here, and you're a good candidate for liver transplant. You don't
Oh,
want to be on that list.
no, you do not.